a chasm? Well, it's a enjoyable little pile of secrets, scattered throughout a Metroidvania style world. Of course, it's much more accurate to describe this as a Vania style world than anything Metroid, because the only DNA it takes from Metroid is stuff that Castlevania took in the first place. Of course, I'm getting a little ahead of myself here. What really makes Chasm unique is its procedural generation. You see, when you boot up a new game of Chasm, you'll be given a seed number. This seed number determines the way your map is laid out. While the rooms themselves may be handcrafted, the way that each one of these rooms is put together is decided by an algorithm. Two things make this really impressive. One, that the world can be put together by an algorithm, yet still have areas locked off in Metroidvania style fashion. In other words, they're locked off depending on what upgrades you've unlocked or progressed in the game. And secondly, I never got to the end of a corridor in Chasm and found there was nothing there. That's generally the telltale sign of running through a procedurally generated world. Yet in Chasm, every end of a hallway, every corridor, every door I opened had something there for me. It was never just a dead end. While this sort of design does have its drawbacks, in other words, sometimes the areas that you're running through can feel a little bit samey. It can feel like you're running through the same type of environments. There's very little unique rooms that you will come across. It does have a lot of benefits that come along with it as well. One is the one that the developers intended in the first place, and that was when they went back and played their favourite games, or their favourite Castlevania games in particular of old. They knew those maps back to front. They knew where to go, they knew the secrets, and so rediscovering the game just wasn't a thing that they could do. They'd play through the game and they would know what to expect, they would know where to find the best upgrades. And so they kind of found themselves wishing that they could go back to those old games and experience them again for the first time. So that's one benefit of this procedural generation, but there's actually multiple benefits here that I'm not sure whether the developer intended, but it's certainly a big bonus. One of them is the way that it offers a different experience for everyone that plays, if you choose to play on a different seed number. You see, when me and my partner Nat played the game together, we would be going through this game and discovering items at different rates and having chests that give us different rewards. And while we're talking about community, Chasm does one of those things that is great for communities, and it really captures what old games did exceptionally well that it's a little bit rarer to see these days, but it's still around. And that's the essence of secrets. Things that people don't know about and need to discover as a community because they're just not obvious on the surface. Remember playing Super Mario Bros. 3 and the first time one of your friends told you that you could hold down on a white block, or maybe you read it somewhere, and if you held down for like 5 or 6 seconds, that you went behind the scenery? That was one of those mind-blowing moments. I was like, wow, what is with this? And obviously the game that this is kind of harkening back to did that very well as well, games like Castlevania Symphony of the Night. And what Chasm brings to the table is something similar. So when you are going through the game and you're maybe getting items, there will be a description on the item as to what it does. And that description may not be telling you everything that item does. And it's up to you to figure it out. Or if you're part of a community, let's say you went on Reddit or something like that, you will find out that what other people are finding out about this game. For one instance that I'm just going to spoil here, is that defeating bosses, if you defeat them without being hit at all, you actually get a special weapon drop. And that's just a pinch of the kind of discoverability that is in Chasm. There are still secrets now that people do not know about and they haven't found. Alright, let's get back on track and talk about the combat a little bit here, because the combat is, well, it's very slow and methodical. It requires you to kind of learn your enemies. It's not overly punishing though. It's not like if you take a hit you're going to lose a massive amount of health that you're not going to be able to recover from by the time you get to the next save point, but it is something that you're going to have to slowly learn your enemies. And if you've ever played a game like this in the past, you would know exactly what I'm talking about. It's the type of thing that as you progress through the game and you come back to areas you've been to before, or maybe get later in areas that you've already been into, you kind of realize that, hold on a second, I'm not just wiping the floor with these enemies because I'm stronger, it's because I know them now. I know how to deal with them, I know when to dodge, and I know when to attack. And that's where I should mention the backdash move. Now, we've obviously seen this before in games, but what's done so well about this is the way that it deals with enemies. And I found that every single enemy in the game, at least as far as I could tell, if I hit the backdash move before they attacked, I would move out of their attack range. I never felt unfairly backdashing and still getting hit because of it. And after backdashing to dodge an attack, I had the option to go in close for a melee strike, or I had my spells as well, which range from most of your normal Castlevania spells, like either throwing down holy water or throwing daggers, things like that. The enemy diversity is on point as well. By the end of the game, you're actually going to see over 80 different enemies. And the clever thing here is, after defeating a certain amount of enemies, you add a description into your book, which is just one of those cool kind of collectionist things as you're working through this game to try to defeat enough enemies to get a collection of each enemy that you've met in this game. And I really like the way the game says that you have all these kind of extra stuff that you can complete, but it doesn't force you to. At no point does it say you have to do this to get to a certain point in the game. You don't have to scan all the enemies or collect enough data from all the enemies. You don't have to go out of your way to try get the best items in the game. And you don't have to try rescue all the townsfolk from down to this mine to complete anything. But you are rewarded for doing so. You know what? I haven't even actually talked about the townsfolk yet. That's one of my favourite parts of this game. That as I'm discovering this mine and getting deeper down into it, I'm rescuing more townsfolk. And these townsfolk are going to do things for me like buy and sell items. They're going to have quests for me that if I complete that quest, I get a reward for doing so. It really made me want to get deeper into these mines just to find more townsfolk to bring them back to my town. And eventually you get ones that do stuff like, there's a mini game one that you can play that unlocks more tokens to play more of a different sort of mini game. But you can play it as many times as you want, and I just had a ball just doing that alone. It's these type of little Easter eggs in games that give them personality. Now there's two more things that I want to go over here. One is the art design. Now I mentioned at the start that it really has that wow moment because of the way that they're layered together, the way that they're put together from the procedural generation. But that didn't stop the art from just being beautiful to look at in the first place. The way the pixel art is layered in design is really well done. And even down to the little touches, like when you pass a banner, it's going to wave in the wind as you just ran past it. It actually took me a while to even notice that was happening. And then there's the music. Now I'm terrible at explaining why I like music because honestly I just don't listen to enough of it. But I found myself really enjoying Chasm's music. Each area kind of fits a brief and feels organic and like it belongs to that zone. And it does a great job of setting the tone. Like when I go back to town, the music is nice and relaxing. The whole town has this kind of chill vibe to it, so that I get this feeling that I've relaxed, I've accomplished what I needed to do, I can save, I can heal up, I can get my mana back, recover, buy some items, and I'm ready to go down there again. I've gotten past that tense moment of wondering when the next save point is coming up. So in the end, I think Chasm's procedural generation adds more to the game than it takes away. Like it does have its drawbacks, but it certainly wouldn't be the same game without it. Anyway guys, thank you for watching. Let me know if you're going to be picking up Chasm, and remember, like button, subscribe button, you do you, and for everything Nintendo, stay tuned to Nintendo Everything.